All right, here we go. DL Hughley.
It's always good to see you.
Yeah,
and
likewise.
every time I see you, I have two things happen. I have a great time, and I almost end up in some bullshit. Cause you have a way of making me tell the truth, Vlad.
That's what happened last time.
It is. I ain't been able to check into a hotel without asking, has Terry Crews been here?
That made national news last time.
For what?
It was on like everything. USA
was.
Today. I think what was it? The Washington Post did like a whole big article about it.
It was crazy because I was actually coming, and the thing about that interview was we had done it almost a year previous.
Like 7 months before.
I don't understand. I think that now everybody's so into this notion that it happened to me too. Hey, motherfucker, God gave you muscles so you could say no and mean it.
What do you mean it happened to you too?
Like when he went, I could understand people being in certain situations because there's nothing you could do about it. And I had seen Terry at there was Houston's in Pasadena, and I'd seen him, and I knew he'd seen what I'd said, and he'd seen me, and I'd seen him. We didn't speak, because we have a different. And I respect him. I think he's a good cat, but I had a difference of opinion, and I told it in a humorous way. And then I was coming out of this gig I was having in New Mexico, and it was 3:00 in the morning, and he was addressing the interview that we'd done 7 months ago, and I was like, where did this come from? And when I landed, my agent, Richard, called me and said, hey, man, just apologize. I said, man, I don't apologize for shit that I said that I mean. I wasn't being mean to you, but I was telling, I never said what you should do. I said what I would have done. Like, I'm not, listen, in my estimation, I grew up a little dude, and I'm still not a big guy, right? And when I grew up, if you let people do stuff to you, they kept doing it. Matter of fact, when I grew up, the only reason anybody went to the gym or to take karate or to learn how to box is they was tired of getting fucked with. Only reason anybody orders an ab roller in the middle of the night is for revenge. If you, they said that shit at 2:00 in the morning for all the people that's tired of that bullshit. And maybe if I get these shake weights, I can get this motherfucker right now. Wait till summer's over. I'm a fuck. So to me, it's hilarious. But I think humor is the way I've always addressed things, and I don't feel bad. And I think that most of the people who weighed in on it are fairly disingenuous because it was a lot of those Me Too movement women, and that's nice, but it's funny how they'll weigh in when a black man is fondled, but not when a black man is shot. A lot of those very same women, if Terry Crews with his size and how big he is and how was sitting in front of the house, they call the police, and if he got his ass whooped, they would not say one thing.
Right.
So it's disingenuous to me. And there's a premium on being a victim. And it had to feel good, but it had to feel good that people, because Terry's a big dude, man. So it had to feel good that people finally weren't afraid of him. They embraced him. But by the same token, I think that if you can see that a big man like that can be victimized, then you should be able to see that Trayvon Martin could, or that Mike Brown could,
yeah,
or that
definitely.
Eric Garner could.
Absolutely.
So that seemed disingenuous, but I refuse to apologize. So I'm pretty sure. If I smell Old Spice, I'm leaving the building.
Well, he's not actually Old Spice anymore. It's
Deion Cole, yeah. But I just, like, people, like, I'm like when he said, I'll slap you. If you just slapped the dude to grab your balls, we not having this conversation. Why are you being tough with the comedian? Like to me, it's, I'm a little dude, and I have agents, right? But if an agent, you can't touch my balls and work for me. Yeah. Like, agents work for you. They get you jobs and take 10% of your money. You're not gonna touch my balls and send the invoice in. That's not getting ready to happen.
Well, yeah. I mean, I interviewed Nick Cannon, and that actually used to be his agent.
I mean, he was my agent. He was Adam Sandler. I'm pretty sure that's how he met.
Right. Did he ever come on you?
Hell no.
Talk about wilding out.
Yeah. Well, he said that he's married. I think he has kids. I just assumed like, okay, this is an openly gay man in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Not that uncommon.
Right.
And, something happened. I didn't think that this was a straight man or a bi man or an in the closet man. I just figured that this was just, everyone knew that he was gay. But it seems like there's more to this story, honestly.
I know this. I'm a black man in the United States of America. And there are few things I can control. I can't control people's perspectives of me. I can't control, to a great extent, how much they pay me or what. I can't control that. What I can't control is my person. Mm-hmm. I can control this right here. And even that to a certain degree. Like, I can't control what the police would do to me or a court would do to me. But I can control somebody physically, encroaching on my person. Mm-hmm. So the things I can control, I do. And I don't know that we have to have, that I have to see things the way you do or to have the same perspective as you do, because the one thing I can't see is my person or my mental perspective. And I just it was funny to me. It was a funny thing to watch people get upset about.
Well, yeah, I mean, me and TK Kirkland,
Yeah.
we talked about it. And, we had an open conversation about, whether or not Terry Crews was gay or not.
Right.
Well, now with the whole, because you mentioned the whole purse and high boots thing. And I don't have any secret information. I'm not making any judgments. But you knowing Terry Crews.
Yes.
Is there a chance that Terry just might be gay and hasn't come out the closet yet?
Let me tell you something. When I saw that today, right, it fucked with me for a split second, because I had the same thought that you just had. I'm being honest. Mm-hmm. Because no matter, when you're from the street, and now Terry Crews from Flint. He's from Flint, Michigan. I don't know nobody else. Some of the coldest gangsters I know come out of motherfucking Flint, Michigan. So what the fuck he was trying to prove with the purse and the boots, I don't get it, because it doesn't prove anything. And to the LGBTQ, to the Terry Crewses of the world, listen, we're not here to bash nobody. Some things are just misconstrued. And don't forget, we are entitled to our opinions also.
Just
Right.
for fun.
Right.
And Terry Crews actually responded to us.
Yeah.
And said TK Kirkland and Vlad talk about being sexually aroused by Terry Crews.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
And then sorry to interrupt you, but then he kept retweeting all these people who were denying that he was gay for like 2 days.
right. He had not gay testimony.
Right.
But the very people who support him say it's okay to be gay.
Right.
Like to me, I don't know what he is or he isn't.
Right.
And I think he's a big, strong cat, and I think he's having a great career. But I also will not defer my vantage point, my viewpoint to anybody. I think that I believe what I believe. I'll say what I say, and I'm willing to take. It ain't the first time a big dude that wanted to beat the shit out of me because I said something he didn't like.
It won't be the last.
I spent my life getting my ass whooped, either physically but the gig is I believe what I believe, and I think that there is a premium. Like I almost said, there's a premium on victimhood. There's a premium on being authentic and who you are too.
Yeah, man. Well, listen. At the end of the day, you stood your ground. We stood our ground.
Right.
And Terry stood his ground.
And everybody's all right.
Everyone's
Ain't
all
nobody
right.
dead.
No one's dead.
Yet.
The sun still,
Right.
went up the next day.
Right,
And, everyone's still feeding their families, and it is what it is. Shout out to Terry Crews. If he wants to come to VladTV or to the DL Hughley Show,
Right.
I understand that he has an open invitation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. To me, I don't think that there's anything wrong with people disagreeing. Like we could, this sounds disingenuous. I don't have to agree with you to want to hear what you have to say.
Well, you have a new show.
I do.
The DL Hughley Show on
do.
TV One.
Uh-huh.
I've watched a few episodes.
Right.
Pretty dope.
Thank you, man.
What I like the best, I'll be honest, is that your daughter is actually the DJ.
Sure.
DJ Lucci
Sure.
is on the show.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Right.
It's like a family affair.
It is. Who else can I trust? Besides the motherfuckers that ask me for money all the time.
You have some control over it.
They need me to be alive. But you know what? The truth of the matter, Bill Bellamy was on the show, and he was talking about, I had talked to him about, he had come to a party we were having, and my oldest daughter was going off to college, and and it had passed by so fast because I've been working so hard. And he said, and I said I regretted the one thing I don't get back is time. But now, in essence, I've been able to turn the clock back a little bit because I have my son and my daughter on the show, and I get to work with them. And as much as they depend on me, I depend on them because they're like my touchstones. Now, even though I won't do what they say just because I have little respect for millennials because I think they're so flighty and I think they're so eager to please. But I love them as human beings and I respect them as people, not just because you're a person, but because I respect their vantage points and I respect their insight. Like my son is my hero, and that's weird that he's so much younger than me. And my daughter is my muse, and that's amazing to me. So I work with them, and I get to see them all the time, and they're not funny, and they're ungrateful, but I only have to be there for 4 hours.
They're not funny. And
They are. They're not funny, and they're ungrateful.
Well, you had a bunch of guests on the show. Steve Harvey.
Yes.
Matt Barnes.
Yeah.
Bill Bellamy, who you mentioned.
Yeah.
Anderson .Paak.
Yep.
Lena Waithe.
Yep.
Am I missing anybody?
Nope. Well, we got a few more. You know what I loved about having Steve on? I think that there was Steve and I have always been very close, and I think the Trump diatribe I went on Instagram led people to believe that I felt a way I didn't. I've always loved Steve. He's my brother to me. I despise Trump, and I despise Trump because he uses black people as props. And my argument and my verbal attack was on Trump's seemingly endless ability to use black people as props. I don't care if it's Kanye or Jim Brown or you know, any number of people that he uses. He uses them as props and then discards them. I don't care if you're black preachers, John Gray and those cats. And I just think that I've never seen a black person be involved with him and then come out unscathed without being tainted by his bullshit. And I just hated that it happened to Steve. But Steve is one of my dearest friends and one of the cats. Steve Harvey and George Lopez are the only people I can say this about. I've never seen anybody. I've seen those two people do things for people in terms of paying bills or bailing people out or sending people to college for people and never talk about it. So I know him personally and I know him intimately and I understand who he is. I just hated his interaction with Donald Trump.
I mean, did you guys address the Trump thing
Sure.
on the show? Okay, and what did he say?
He just said he wouldn't have done it again. He thought he was going to do good. But that's how Trump gets you. You always think... You always think you're going to, you know, I'm sure that there were a lot of women that thought they were going to get something out of it and just got their pussy grabbed. So I think you always think that something good's going to happen. And then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
I don't care if it's Jeff Sessions or I don't care if it's any other number of people that he's used and discarded. I've never seen anybody that fell out of favor with him come out of it unscathed. And I think the same thing happened with Steve.
Yeah, I mean, the turnover in the administration is like nothing I've seen in my lifetime.
The turnover for the Trump administration is higher than Jack in the Boxes.
Jack in the Box fires more people than fires less people than Trump.
The Trump fires more people than Jack in the Box. Like Jack in the Box, you go to work like, fuck it, I ain't coming today. It's the same thing with Trump.
Yeah. Well, at least Steve was man enough to actually admit that he made a mistake.
He did.
Most people wouldn't do that.
He
Most
did.
people just keep riding it out.
He did. And then you'll get fired and embarrassed. I think we live in a time where we have ceded our ability to call it like we see it and to be genuinely repentant without having to be forced to.
Yeah.
Like this whole college cheating scandal, I don't understand.
Why not?
Because these are the richest people, the 1%, right? And they have afforded their children the ability to go to the finest schools with caring teachers and abundant resources, right?
Well, they're cheating their way in.
That's right. But I'm talking about private schools. I'm talking about the schools that prepare the prep classes that they take, they want to find schools with caring teachers and abundant resources.
Right.
I've given you. You were born with a silver spoon in your mouth, but you want the knife and the fork too. Now, if I've given you that kind of leg up, and you can't pass the test that gets you into college, you're fucking dumb. You're dumb. And what you want to do is take a dumb person and put them in a position. You ever work with somebody or seen somebody and go, how did that motherfucker get that job? That's how. That's how. That's how. Because to me, like as a parent, and I'm a parent, I saved money for my kids' school. And I knew my kids' strengths and weaknesses, and I wasn't gonna obfuscate. Like some of my kids, I saved for money for college. Some I saved for bail. I'm not getting ready to waste my money on your ass. You better get familiar with this broom. But I think that there is. What does it say about a parent that he wants his child to be their? They want their child to be their idea successful. And go to these institutions knowing they're not ready for them, but knowing they can shoehorn them in. And then those people go through life thinking that they really accomplished something, and they didn't. And they make decisions that they're not qualified to. That's why you have the Congress and the Senate. It's a population of people like that.
Right. I mean, I went to UC Berkeley, but I got in legally. My parents couldn't afford to donate shit.
So you had to actually,
I actually had to, take AP classes,
right,
and get
learn
high SAT scores, and actually get in properly. And I mean, I could tell you that going to a top school like that, if you don't really have the intelligence to really take advantage of it, it's kind of a waste of everybody's time.
Right, but they get to. My daughter went to Smith and USC. And the one thing I harped on about her on is to work hard. If I would have been in a position where I could just pay her, bribe somebody, what story does it tell? I just think we have this whole idea of what these things mean. So like if you're an employer and you see somebody that has a degree from Harvard and see somebody that has a degree from Howard, you would, according to society, you'd be more inclined to believe that the Harvard degree was more valuable. But what if that guy was legacy then?
Right, but the Howard degree matters a lot also.
That's right.
As an employer, we've hired people, from Howard.
But traditionally, they tell you got to go here and get this from them, and this doesn't mean as much. What if this guy that went to Howard worked much harder than this cat that went to Harvard? So now we're all of a sudden they've set the whole idea of merit on his ear because they've lied and cheated and bullshitted to get it to where they got.
Well, Dr. Dre made an Instagram post.
Yeah.
Saying how his daughter got into USC.
You goddamn right.
Without breaking the law. And then people brought up.
Fuck him.
He gave $70 million to that school.
That's right.
Previously.
You know what? Here's the thing. If there's a difference between, and this is what people, they're comparing apples to oranges. There's a difference between somebody who endows a school and gives them a building, and somebody who lies and says that their kids are on a road team and make up scores and all that kind of shit.
Right.
Dr. Dre should, if you pay $70 million to an institution, every one of your kids should be able to go there. If you got doctor in front of your name, you should be able to walk on USC. I wish I would pay $70 million. Everybody I know
should be getting free.
Right. I'll pull a bus up in front of Inglewood and everybody going to USC. But that's different than somebody saying, my kids never been on the road team. My kids never went to class. My kids never won it. He didn't cheat. He did. If you put your name on a building, those kids supposed to be able to go there. That's the way that shit goes.
I mean, it's the way it does go. It's not the way it should be.
No.
It's not the way it should be.
Let me tell you something.
Mean,
I don't think rich people should be denied the shit that comes with having wealth. I just don't think they should be able to cheat to get it. I don't. Like Dr. Dre was a nigga from Compton that made it big. So and he was able to send an institution $70 million. That dude is the quintessential American dream.
100%.
So he didn't do it like everybody else did. He's not like the fucking Rockefellers. He's a dude that earned his money beat by beat. And so if he does something, it really is a pity. Instead of comparing him to people that own Target and are wealthy their whole life, you should be able to say he's an aspirational figure. And you goddamn right. If I give you $70 million and somebody say they know me, you better let them in.
Well, listen, at the end of the day, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, Dre took down that Instagram post.
Why?
Because everyone's having a field day.
So what? The man worked hard. Yeah. His daughter got in. I don't get why people succumb to their idea. Like some people succumb to the public's or the loudest members of the public's idea of who they are. Like, you know who you are. You know what your motives were. Live with it.
Yeah.
You can survive Compton. You can survive Twitter. Right. I mean, that ain't that hard.
Well, Nipsey Hussle.
Yes.
Tragically killed.
Yes.
I interviewed him once, and the way that he was presented, at the end of his life,
right,
was pretty much the way our interview went.
Right.
Very business-minded, very forward-thinking.
Right.
Very intelligent.
Right.
I have absolutely nothing but good things to say about him.
You know what made me saddest about Nipsey Hussle?
What's that?
It's not what he was, it's what he could have been.
Yeah.
I think, and I said this, you can't have a tomorrow when you keep killing your todays.
Yeah.
The very things, the very answers to the questions that plague our communities, he was the answer to.
Well, you grew up in a very similar environment.
Right.
In what area?
135th and Avalon.
And what's that considered?
Compton, L.A., Willowbrook.
Got it.
Right.
Got it. You grew up in a blood neighborhood.
Yes.
He grew up in a Crip neighborhood.
Right.
Not that big of a difference at the end of the day.
But you know that makes me the saddest is there was a time in my life where I'd have seen something like when I was very young. I would have seen something like that where another guy from another neighborhood got killed. And if he wasn't in my neighborhood, I wouldn't have felt the empathy or sympathy I did. Because we're conditioned to believe that the only thing that matters is our 6-block radius that our mother and father are struggling to pay the rent on.
Yeah, I mean, I interviewed Big U, who was,
right,
the OG from the Rolling 60s. And, he kind of broke down the Rolling 60s A-Tray gangster beef.
Right.
More than it was a beef with the Rolling 60s and the A-Tray gangsters, it split up L.A.
Yeah.
Like when the Rolling 60s and the A-Tray gangsters started fighting, it split L.A. in half.
I remember that. I remember. Now I was a blood, but I remember the. It seemed weird to me because there was so few bloods when I grew up that we didn't beef like that. I mean, we'd have fights and stuff, but that the 60s and the A-Tray gangsters, their mortal enemies were both Crips, and they lived right next to each other, and it always seemed weird to me.
Right, and he kind of described how, both those gangs were so big and so affiliated with other gangs that it kind of split L.A. down the middle.
Right.
Because
it did.
If you were cool with the 60s, you now had to have beef with the A-Trays.
Right.
And if you were friends with the A-Trays, now you have beef
like
with the 60s.
11, the 111 Hoovers, the 107s. It was with the rain. It was like a weird thing. And there was, what makes me the saddest, there was a time in my life where I watched other black men being slaughtered. And I thought nothing of it. And that makes me sad. And it makes me sad because the 55-year-old me would have looked so would have despised the 15-year-old me. Because if you get to be this age, you get a continuum of experience. I get 40 years of experiences where I can look back. But I will say this, that I think there's an idea. Look at the way we see ourselves. Like, I never wanted to leave my neighborhood. I thought it was the best place ever. I thought that everything I ever needed or everybody I ever loved was there. And then now I've seen the world. And now I know my neighborhood is the world. So that would say to me, if a black man gets choked to death in New York because it's in my neighborhood, the 50-year-old me wouldn't have cared. The 55-year-old me does. If Trayvon Martin, the 15-year-old me wouldn't have cared. The 55-year-old me does.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have these types of situations, and I'm not talking about the Nipsey situation.
Sure.
I'm just talking about on a macro level.
Right.
Right? And, like, you have, for example, the 60s A-Tray beef. 40 years
Yeah, a little longer than
going
that.
on.
A little longer than that.
Where you grow up and you're being told this group of people that you've never met over a situation you know nothing about, really, that's your enemy. You have to refer to those people as your enemies. That's my enemyhood. Those are my enemies over there.
It's the Hatfields and McCoys.
Yeah.
It's Palestine and Israel.
Yeah.
What I know now that I didn't before, everywhere black people and brown people live is where we were forced to live. There were places you couldn't live in Los Angeles. I remember when my mother and father wanted to buy a house, I was a little boy. There were places we could live. You could live in Inglewood.
Compton.
You could live in Compton. You could live in the inner cities.
Carson.
And you could live in Carson. That's where you could live. Everywhere we live, every hood we fight for is where they told us we had to be. They gave us the chitlins of real estate, and we fight over it. And it's insane to me.
You don't own it.
But the 15-year-old me wouldn't have known what the 55-year-old me does. The thing I loved about Nipsey is that he had a connection to the people in that area, but his connection was deeper than that. It wasn't just people in his neighborhood that came to see him. You know what? I bet you more people lined the streets of Los Angeles and watched his procession than came to see Donald Trump be inaugurated as president. More people probably looked and said goodbye to Nipsey than hello to him. Now, that's not because he represented the 60s. That's because he represented us. That's because in us is all of us.
I think what a lot of people don't understand is that Nipsey was celebrated during his death, not for his rapping, but what he did outside of rap. If you take the rap away, he would still be just as celebrated because of what he did.
Biggie and Tupac sold way more albums.
Way more.
Did they get buried at the Staples Center?
No. Although Biggie had a huge procession.
He did have a huge
in
procession.
Brooklyn, yeah.
He might have had it in Brooklyn. He didn't have it in Africa. He didn't have it in Europe. He didn't have it in South Central, in Texas, in New York. Do you know why? Because his art wasn't his thing. His humanity was. And the thing that's beautiful about that is, I think that the children that live in these inner cities that are shell-shocked with all this violence now see something that ain't just being a basketball player or a rapper or an athlete or a comedian. It's that you can be a human being and be so human that you connect with a place. There's no lyric, no joke, or no catch that could ever touch the places in our hearts that Nipsey Hussle did. And that's amazing to me. But that's aspirational for people. What if you wanted to be that? When I grew up, I wanted to be like the dude that shot Nipsey. I thought that was the greatest thing ever.
Eric Holder.
To put in work for your set. I thought that was dope.
Yeah, although I don't know whether he was really putting in.
But I'm just saying, if you
in that situation, but I see what you're saying. Yeah.
But to have the idea that the destruction of things was better than the building of it.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden you have a young man who died, who showed you that living your life, even though it was short, in a way of when I've never seen black men, a young black man like that in my life, celebrated for his service to people.
Yeah, man. I mean, when you talk about, aspiring to do violence, like I remember I interviewed Mr. Capone, who was affiliated with the Mexican, the Sureños, and he said as a kid, and this has always blown my mind. He said that
my dreams, like it even sounds crazy as hell, but my dreams were like I want to be doing life in prison.
As a 17-year-old kid, you dreamed
to
have life in prison.
I dreamed that.
And to be like a high-ranking member calling shots from your jail cell.
When you're a kid, I was loving violence. I was loving the streets. I was loving the power. I was gaining power because I was not just the average. I was actually out there putting in work, so I would see the power, and I was enjoying the power. But when you get to jail, you realize like it's just like at the end of the day, I'm not gonna say shit, but everyone ain't loyal. Everyone ain't really for the push.
Which is absolutely crazy. You aspire to go do life in prison. And I remember I asked a couple other people, other Mexican artists, and they're like,
when you're a youngster, that's everybody's mentality. That was mine too.
You had that same mentality.
Same mentality. That's when you're a youngster. Your dream is to hit Pelican Bay and all that stuff. You feel me? But as you become older and like you have kids and shit, and you have homies that are already there, or, you know what I mean, and see what it really is, you kind of change your views in life and shit. Like,
to aspire to this is so backwards. And they realize it's backwards now when they're older and they have kids and everything else like
because they have
that.
a continuum of experiences.
Right.
When you're young and all you have is this area and all you have is this set of rules and all you had is this set of circumstances, the thing about Nipsey is it's the thing that is prevalent all across these cities, all across this country. And I speak to this country in particular because this is where I live, but all across this country is there a lot of young black and brown men, boys, who will never become men because their idea of what that look like is so small, they think getting to the next day is a victory. And it makes me sad. And it makes me sad. I cry for the 15-year-old boy I was more than I celebrate the 55-year-old man I am.
You know, I interviewed Godfrey, and we talked about the whole situation of Nipsey staying in his neighborhood, hanging out.
Sure.
And, you know, I know people from that area.
Sure.
They would always say, you would just see Nipsey hanging out there all the time.
Sure.
It wasn't he was just visiting the store and then bounce out. He'd be there all day. And, you know, Godfrey says sometimes you have to love the hood from afar.
Does that mean you have to help the hood from afar then? That's what it would have to be. You have to, listen, I just always think when this kind of shit happens, you go, well, fuck it then. You know, I'm going to have to help you from afar. I can't have this jealousy shit because we are, I mean, it's sad, but people get angry at you, man.
Every time. Let me ask you something. Every single person, we celebrate Jesus. Who killed him? We celebrate Caesar. Who killed him?
His own people?
His own people. A prophet has no honor amongst his own. You'll do better for your community if people see what you've done. And you gotta release the fact that your community is now not 6 blocks. It's the world. It's the world. If you take, you know how they make bonsai trees? They take a big ass tree and they put it in a small space and it grows to the size of its confines. And that's our minds.
Yeah.
It grows to, you know how they make gates, they bind their feet so they don't grow. That's what we're doing. We're built to be constricted in a small area so we don't what? Grow.
Yeah, I mean, rest in peace to Nipsey, but you could just tell that he loved to be in his neighborhood.
Sure.
That was his favorite place. He didn't live there. He had a house somewhere else, I'm sure. He did not live in
let me ask you
on Crenshaw and Slauson. I'm sure he had a big house somewhere else in Hollywood or wherever, but he loved to be in that area.
I love macaroni and cheese. If I ate it every day, I'd be dead. Comfort kills you. It's comfort. You know why Americans are fat and illiterate and ignorant? Because we're comfortable. And I'm talking about a specific group. I'm talking about in general, where we are educationally, where we are on a health scale, our infant mortality rates, is because we eat only what we like, and we read only what we like, and we believe only what we like. Only children do that. I know that I can't eat macaroni and cheese every day if I want to live. I know that I can't read the things I like or I can't grow. I know I can't only do the exercises I dig or I can't expand. Only children and ideologues only like what they like. And you can't do it. And the people in our neighborhoods, the people, we're conditioned to only be where we're comfortable. Name me the last time you grew and were comfortable.
Yeah, man. I mean, my pivotal moment in my life was when I moved out of the Bay Area to New York with no money, with no place to stay, because I had a dream to pursue that I knew was not going to happen in the Bay Area.
My wife made me so mad. We lived in Baldwin Hills, and it was I'm going to live in L.A., I grew up on 135th Avenue. I moved to the Dons in Baldwin Hills. I made it. My wife was like, I don't want to be here. People kept getting robbed and jacked up, and people. But I was like, nah, this is where I'm supposed to be. My wife, one time, our neighbor got robbed, and the dude ran across my lawn, and my neighbor came running out half naked with a house coat on. I can't get him. And my wife said, we leaving, and you can come with us or not. And I was so mad at her for putting me from leaving me, making me leave my comfort zone. And I moved to West Hills. And I had been there, and I started talking about my experiences, and that became the basis of my sitcom. And then I started having more experiences, and that became the basis for books and the outlook. So if I hadn't listened to my woman tell me what was better for me or taking me out of my comfort zone, I wouldn't be where I am.
Facts. Absolutely. I mean, what do you think about that whole situation? Because, there's no trial yet, there's no plea deal yet, but I mean, the story that's basically going around is that this guy approached Nipsey, and Nipsey called him a snitch. He left, came back, and started shooting.
Now, I can't pretend like I know what happened. I wasn't privy to it, and I can't pretend like, and I've heard all the stories, but it's not uncommon for a jealous man to kill a man he's jealous of, and that happens all. I mean, look at what happened to Selena. Yeah, look at what happened to Marvin Gaye. I don't care. We can go look what happened to Jesus. Look what happened to Sam Cooke.
You think Marvin Gaye's dad was jealous of Marvin?
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What man would kill his seed? Because, I could see slapping the shit out of somebody.
I mean, Marvin was high off drugs and actually just beat him up really badly.
I get it.
In his own home.
I get it. I'll tell you this. At the end of the day, the things that you should take some people's lives for, I've seen very few times when that's been warranted.
Yeah.
Somebody, he said something slick to me, or he took something from me, or he says, life is so fucking precious. It should be the last thing that you take from somebody, because it's the most permanent thing you can ever take from somebody. Everything else, like farmers gonna give me my shit back, or State Farm gonna give me my shit back. I defy you to find an insurance company or a detective that can give you a life back.
Yeah, no, I interviewed Chi Ali, who killed his baby mother's brother because the guy told him to suck his dick.
Right.
Which is, and we talked about this, and he's like, well.
I mean, for me, I just recall my older brother when I was younger just telling me, yo, you don't let nobody invite you to their dick. And that's that. Like, he never said no more, but he said that, and he said it in a way when I was young that probably was a little more stern than what he said most things, because I knew that was a no-no.
And now he realizes how stupid that sounds.
Yeah.
Because he fucked off a big part of his life.
Right.
And he permanently scarred his entire family, because he used to babysit this man's son who's now full grown, and it's just all fucked up because he couldn't suck my dick.
Man. I'm telling you, the 15-year-old me and the 55-year-old version of me are not even the same species. And I think a lot of people do not, what that man has right now that he didn't have before is time and continuum of experiences. And Nipsey Hussle would have been an entirely different dude 12 years from now.
Mm-hmm. Well, I interviewed Malik Yoba, and he said something interesting, and there's a big debate going on over this. Because, a lot of people are comparing Tupac to Nipsey Hussle now.
For sure.
What Malik said was that
Tupac talked a lot about what we need to do for the community. And obviously, with his mother, Afeni, who was a Panther, and, by extension, the breakfast programs, education programs, all that kind of stuff that he was steeped in, he spoke to those things. But Nipsey was actually doing those things. The interesting thing about him is that he wasn't on everybody's radar like that.
Well, I think it's I don't agree, because I think you can do more if people visualize what you say. Like, one was a physical presence. One is an emotional and spiritual presence. Now, how is it that Jesus, a man who they'll never meet, has guided all these lives, all these careers? Billions of people who'll never meet him, he wasn't a physical presence, are guided by a man they'll never see.
Well, have you met Tupac at all?
Of course.
Okay, did you have a relationship with him
I
at all?
did. I thought he was a tremendously talented guy, and I thought, but it's almost like it's actually. I think I disagree with the premise that because people could touch you and see you, that you're more real and present than somebody who aspires you to believe this.
Right.
It takes more. It takes more humanity and more connective tissue to not even be in somebody's life, to not even be present to them and have them respond to you.
Well, yeah, I mean, Tupac said that he may not change the world, but he'll spark the brain that does.
And I think that you can.
Right.
Both did the same things.
Yeah.
Tupac was an artist. Nipsey was an artist / activist / entrepreneur. So it was a lot of things.
Right, because, you know, the argument was, well, Tupac only lived to 25. Nipsey lived to 33. Tupac would have probably done a lot more by the time he reached 33. But from my point of view, based on what I've seen about Tupac, you know, because Tupac died broke, essentially. He had like $5,000 in his bank account.
Sure.
His record deal was in shambles. Like, not everyone is a business person. I think Tupac was more of a pure artist. He focused everything on his art.
Right.
And it showed. He didn't want to, I mean, Nipsey had like a roller rink, a clothing store, he invested in crypto, he was trying to invest in a hotel, like he had a bunch of, you know, he owned the property that strip mall was in. Not everyone wants to do this. At the end of the day.
Imagine.
Not everyone, and not one is no better than the other, is that Pac never struck me as a business person.
No.
He was more focused on the art. Nipsey, I think, was more of a hustler, hence the name Nipsey Hussle.
Right.
He was focused on making money, building businesses, and he also rapped.
Right.
So that's why I feel like, yeah, Nipsey was actually doing more stuff, actual, you know, building actual businesses, whereas Tupac was more inspirational.
It's not really too much different for me between Muhammad Ali and Colin Kaepernick. It's really not that much difference for me.
Explain.
Because Muhammad Ali risked everything, lost the prime of his career, refused to go to a war, was stripped down. He was, and people didn't love him.
Went to prison.
But yeah, he went to prison for life. People didn't love Muhammad Ali till he was shaking. And remember the torch in Atlanta? He was shaking. Like they saw that he was done, that he was no longer the biggest, baddest, strongest man in the world. And now they could love him again. They didn't love him till that dude was shaking so bad people ran home and blew their pilot lights out. Nipsey they loved when he died.
Yeah.
And they're both really not too much different. One, and I think it's Colin Kaepernick and Muhammad Ali. I can't say that they're different men. Their struggles were different, but the times were different too. The times were different, but I can't say this is better than that. I think obviously Muhammad Ali is was a better athlete or had a more storied athlete than Colin Kaepernick, but they risked the same. Obviously, Tupac had a bigger record career and a bigger recording career than Nipsey did, but they did the same thing and risked the same things. So I think that they're not too much different to me.
And unfortunately died in similar manners.
And by people, the one thing I've always loved about this city and hated about it at the same time, I love how it reared me. I loved how it reared me. I love what I learned here, but I hated that it's done so much damage. It's killed princes and presidents. It killed Biggie and Tupac and Nipsey and Robert F. Kennedy. It's a lot to know that the city you love is the site for so much carnage.
Well, you know, you've said, and we talked about Nipsey, you said I wouldn't compare him to Jesus, but he did some of the same things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're starting to see more people calling Nipsey, Jesus Christ incarnated or the Black Jesus, or, and even the way he's being drawn is starting to resemble what some of the drawings of Jesus looks like. What do you think about these comparisons?
I think that they're not. He wasn't a religious figure, obviously. He wasn't a deity. He wasn't, but he was a man who made people from all walks of life, who were the outcasts of society, come together for a belief system. He was that. And so I think it's a pretty apt comparison.
Which is what Jesus did.
That's exactly
Jesus
what
wasn't hanging around rich people.
Right. And his own killed him.
Yeah.
And I don't, you can make comparisons and they can be apt and they don't have to be disrespectful to, like I'm not disrespecting the idea of Jesus to say that, listen, Jesus only existed so that Christians only exist so they can be Christ-like, right? So they can follow him in his example, right? They want, he exists as an idea to us and an aspirational idea, and we want to, or Christians want to strive to be like that. What's more impactful than somebody that actually did strive to be like that, who hung around the lowest of us, who tried to uplift the poor, who tried to protect the people who were counted out, and who was killed for those efforts?
Yeah, man. I remember listening to his music. There's a song called No Days Off, and the chorus goes, we go so hard. No, he goes, won't take no loss, don't take days off. We go so hard until we fall. And that so described Nipsey's story.
Sure.
I started to cry in the car.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really it just hit me right then and there listening to it.
It's very sad to be, for all he was, he's not what he would have been had he just lived. It's an amazing thing, man. The antidote for almost everything that ails you is waking up. almost everything that ails you is waking up.
Well, along with Nipsey getting killed, 2 other people were shot.
Sure.
There was a guy named Kerry Lathan.
All right, yep.
And his nephew.
Sure.
And I just interviewed Kerry. The interview just came out today. And essentially, Kerry had murdered somebody.
Sure.
26 years ago. He did his 26 years in prison. He got out 7 months ago. Nipsey had given him some clothes and stuff like that to get going. He was rolling around LA, and his nephew said, hey, you need some clean shirts if you want to go for job interviews. Well, why don't we stop by the Marathon store, pick up some shirts? He went over there to go pick up some shirts. He went to go talk to Nipsey. And then that's when all hell broke loose.
Yeah.
He gets shot in the spine. He's currently in a wheelchair. And once he gets out of the hospital, they told him that he's violating his probation by associating with a known gang member. And he's now back in jail, potentially facing life in prison once again.
I think that we live in a situation where those tragic circumstances that are all too common, where we don't have. I think society, a healthy society, should make laws and new rules and norms that govern and protect, but they should also be empathic enough to understand the difference. Now, for instance, if you in fact check that story out and it looked to be true, because no one can prove anything to any level of certainty, but if it looked to be true, then what is the purpose of sending a man away for trying to better his circumstances? What is the purpose of that? That's not the law protecting the citizenry. That's the law protecting the law. I've never understood. The law doesn't exist to protect the law. It exists to protect the citizens. If the citizens are not being served by sending a man who was in this situation through an unfortunate set of circumstances, then we have to have arbiters of the law who are empathic enough to make those decisions that make our society more viable, better. What is the purpose of sending a man he's been in jail for his life?
The majority of his life, because he's 56 right now.
More than he has, half his life, more than
half his life, yeah.
And so you send him back because he needs something he can't afford. Because the one thing nobody's gonna help you do if you're an ex-con, you can't get relief. You can't get help from anybody. You can't get a job. So what do you have?
You can't even really rent an apartment.
That's right. So what do you have?
Yeah.
If you want a clean shirt and you don't have a family support, who do you have? So I think the law has to understand, and it only exists to protect the citizenry. And if the law is more interested in protecting the law than it is the citizens, then it's no just law. It's not real.
Well, and also, and this is what we talked about, when I interviewed him over the phone, and Big U was the one who set it up. So he was actually on three-way with us. And he was like,
well, the problem is, what we trying to address is not only just with him, we trying to address the way that they want people parole, because he paroled to a halfway house, and in the halfway house said nothing but gang members. He just did 25 years with nothing but gang members. His family and everybody. So you can't have a rule that says if you come in contact with gang members, and these are the only people he knows. He had to come in contact with somebody he knew to help him. When you parole, they give you $200. They give you $200 and then what? How do you get a job? Who's going to help you? Where do you go to live? It's ridiculous. We need to change that rule.
Okay, he has to live in that area because he has to be somewhere where somebody will take him in, right? Because he can't. How would he leave? So you're going to drop him off in a strange place somewhere where nobody knows him and he can't get a job, what is he going to be? He has to go to where he knows, and where he knows is his family, and his family lives where they used to live, and so do the same people.
Yeah.
It's an impossible situation. And to me, it is, justice can be blind, but not to the suffering of the people it's supposed to protect. It can be blind. And being blind means I'm not going to see you differently because you're this way or that way. It shouldn't be blind to the suffering of the people it's supposed to protect. And that's exactly what it is now.
You and I are old enough to remember the OJ trial.
Sure.
And if someone were to bet me $1 million that Chris Darden was going to be part of this Nipsey Hussle story, I would have taken that bet. But sure enough, Chris Darden is now representing Eric Holder.
But Chris Darden's always been on the opposite side of black people.
Really?
Always. I shouldn't say always, but in that trial, he was on the opposite side of black people. On this trial, he's on the opposite side of black people. So maybe his timing's off. Or he's a shitty bid whist player. I don't know, but I listen, he's an advocate. He's a lawyer. I don't think that there has to be some kind of conspiracy to see a lawyer take a case that is high profile and that seems...
He's not going to win.
No, of course he knows he's not going to win, but he's going to be heard.
Okay. I guess. You really feel like he was on the opposite side of black people in the OJ trial?
Yeah, sure. Let me ask you something. Chris Darden's wife and my wife were in Jack and Jill, right?
Oh, okay.
All right. Not me, because I didn't do that bullshit.
Okay.
There were times I would come home and Chris Darden would be there with his wife at my house.
Okay.
And he looked exactly the same way he did when they lost the OJ trial. He looked exactly the same. It took everything out of him. The things that were said about him, the things that were done about, it was. And when I saw him again, I hadn't seen him for a little while. And when I saw him again was at Eric Holder's arraignment. And he looked exactly the same way he did. He looked exactly the same way.
Well, when you look at the OJ trial, most black people I talk to all tell me the same thing.
What?
They all think that OJ did it.
Yes.
But they were just glad that for one time that a black man actually got away with something instead of being framed for something.
I feel differently. I used to, when I believed, when I was young, I believed he didn't do it.
Okay.
When I got older, I believed he did, and I'm ashamed of ever believing he didn't. And I'm not going to let innocent people be slaughtered as some kind of revenge for these wrongs that were done against people. I think I shouldn't be able to. People shouldn't look the other way while people are slaughtered because other people look the other way. So people were slaughtered. I think that's the aspect. I hated the idea that at one point in my life, or several points in my life, I shouldn't just say one, I was able to disconnect from what I think of as some level of moral compass because it made me feel comfortable. OJ, if he murdered those people, and I believe he did, he should have served jail for murder and not robbing of a fucking sports memorabilia shop. And I hated the idea that at one point, because a lot of people that looked like me got killed, I was willing to look the other way. I thought he was innocent before. I feel like he did it now, and I feel bad that I ever allowed myself to talk myself into some bullshit that he was innocent.
I remember right when it was announced that Nipsey was killed, the first thing that started trending was Dr. Sebi.
Yeah, who wasn't a doctor.
Wasn't actually a doctor. And
why do we have to have a conspiracy? I mean, I just don't understand.
Well, because Nipsey was working on a Dr. Sebi documentary.
Sure. Those aren't mutually exclusive. Listen, it's a lot of everybody who died. I don't want to be controversial. Everybody who's ever died was working on something. They were getting ready to do something.
They had plans tomorrow.
Everybody.
Right.
So why do you think it's unusual?
Right. Like for example, Ron Newt just died. I don't know if you know who he is. He was kind of like an interesting figure out of the Bay Area. His kids had a group, an R&B group called the Neutrons with his sons, and they were signed to Joe Jackson, and he was affiliated with Michael Jackson. And we did an interview where he talked about how.
I said, I'm here to help Michael. Oh, he said, oh no, we don't. That ain't what we want with you. We heard that your boy spent nights at the house. We want to know if Michael tampered with him. I just picked him up or touched him in any kind of way. If he did, we got $200,000 for you. I said, huh? I had just got out of prison. I said, man, I can't do that. Can't tell no lie like that. I ain't doing that.
And I remember he called me and said, hey man, I want, after Leaving Neverland came out, he's like, I want to come in and I want to tell some more information to, give my side to protect Michael's story. And a couple days later, and the interview was set up for Saturday, he died on Thursday.
Yeah.
He had plans to do an interview on Saturday, and everyone, oh, well, he was killed because he was about to interview with Vlad.
What about the dudes? There was a dude who went on honeymoon. He had just got married. And they went to go swimming, and a bull shark took his leg off, and he bled to death. He is planning on fucking his wife later on, wasn't he?
Right.
I'm just, it's
yeah.
Everybody that dies, ever, and we all will, have a plan.
Right.
Some people it's oatmeal, some people it's documentary. It's not really that unusual for people to die with a plan.
Well, and listen, I remember me and Godfrey talked about the Dr. Sebi thing.
Dr. Sebi was a natural healer. He had solutions to diseases. It's real shit. I'm just saying. I mean, listen,
I'm not co-signing this, man. This guy claimed to have cured like 30 AIDS patients and like 30 cancer patients, but none of this has been proven. None of this has been, there's a standard medical procedure for cures.
No, listen.
None of this exists. He claims he went to the Supreme Court.
You don't
that
think
never
there are
happened.
cures? You don't think there are cures for AIDS and stuff? Are you kidding me? There are tribes that naturally cure a bunch of shit. But of course,
where are they at?
On the Western, where are they at? If they show themselves, they're
show
going
me
to get wiped out.
If they show me someone that has cured AIDS consistently over and over again.
You can't. Because you know what happens if you do that? You get in the way of business, man.
I've gotten so many death threats.
Right.
In my DMs and in my emails over saying that. Like, well, we hope you're dead.
Right.
And
then you know what happens? They're going to say that Vlad had a plan to prove that he didn't cure AIDS.
That's why they killed him.
I'm going to kill you because I disagree with the dude who said broccoli was bad for you because it's hybrid. It's ridiculous.
Right, yeah. They killed Nipsey because this Dr. Sebi documentary was going to take down the whole pharmaceutical industry.
Oh, yeah, because that was... Listen, or a jealous dude got mad at a dude who was making it. Now, I don't know which one of those stories is true. I know which one's more probable. I don't know how many documentaries niggas have been written about to shoot when they got shot, but I know a lot of niggas that got shot.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, I looked at the comments, and they're like, yeah, and after Nipsey was killed by Navy SEALs, they left a picture of Dr. Sebi on his chest to give people a message not to do any more
Some people
documentaries.
gotta believe.
Like it's so silly. I mean, it reminds me so much of the Tupac thing where people kept saying, like, no, Suge had him killed, even though he was in the car. Had nothing to do with the gangbanger they just stomped out. No, nothing to do with this known killer who's being investigated for multiple murders. nothing to do with that.
Now we argue about truth.
Yeah.
Now we argue about truth. It's easier let's see, how does this sound? It's easier to believe in America. It's easier to believe that a man is really a woman trapped in a man's body, or a woman's really a man trapped in a woman's body, than to believe that black people aren't all inherently dangerous. It's easier to believe that. So now we get to argue about what truth is.
Mm-hmm.
So we get to argue, we get to make our own custom-made idea of what we believe is true. And we only listen and go to places that edify what we want to believe. And that is, to me, the reason a society crumbles. There are myriad of reasons, but one of them is that it has no sense of, it has no idea of its compass, because it can compromise it. Wrong is wrong, right is right, dark is dark, and light is light. That's the way that goes. But now we get to pretend like we don't see what we have to see. We get to pretend, we get to custom make our own truth, easily digestible pieces for the ideas of things we want to be.
Well, look, and to everyone who hates me about my Dr. Sebi statements, when you get cancer or AIDS or another serious illness, you're more than welcome to follow his
Right.
guidelines, his nutritional
Right.
supplements. Me personally, I'm going to go to the hospital.
Right.
And go to someone who's an actual doctor
Right.
who actually went to a university.
Right.
And, because Dr. Sebi had a certificate of healing. That's what made
So
him a
did
doctor.
Marvin Gaye.
Sexual healing.
He made an album about it. I don't get it.
I don't get it either.
Why you
man.
want to kill me because I don't believe what you believe?
Right.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
You don't believe what I believe, and I'm the arbiter of all that's good and right, so you got to die. What? That's so dumb. That's so dumb.
Yeah, man.
I used to have a friend. So my wife has a friend, and she was trying to get pregnant, right? And so she finally gets pregnant, right? And her husband goes out to play golf, and he gets struck by lightning the day that she tells her she's pregnant. A year later, she has the baby, and they're driving along, and the baby's almost a year. Like a couple years later, she has a baby. She hasn't had that. They're driving along. They have this accident. The mother and the baby are killed. This is a true story. She comes to come over my house. I'm like, she got to stay outside, because whatever luck she got can't come in here. I'm not fitting ready to do that. You're not fitting ready to come in my house. Now, it could have been all kinds of theories about that, and sometimes bad shit just happens. It just does. But the idea that it's more, and I think that placing these fanciful notions on things takes the onus of what? Onus of us. Like the idea that somebody kills somebody because they're jealous and they have access to a gun and they had a mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
This cat had mental illnesses. He has access to a gun. Why is that? It's harder to deal with that than to deal with the fact that, you could make up a story about Dr. Sebi and he was making a documentary rather than dealing with the fact that we have yet another example of an American who had a mental condition who had access to a gun he shouldn't have had.
I think that some of it stems from there are actual cases where the government did do things
to the
black community.
A lot, still.
COINTELPRO
Yeah.
being one of the most prominent ones.
The Tuskegee experiment.
Experiment. There were actual cases. So
even during the Tuskegee experiment, a nigga shot another nigga. I don't care. Even
Really?
I'm sure. I'm not talking about. Even during the time that was going on, somebody shot somebody.
During that time, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, COINTELPRO, yep, that's true. But that ain't got shit to do with what happened here.
Right.
So I think that all these, they're not mutual, they're not binary. They're not mutually exclusive.
Right.
You can be this, or I can't prove a negative, but I can tell you this, it's equally as likely that some jealous dude with a gun who shouldn't have access to it, did it then because somebody wanted to kill you because you're making a documentary on Dr. Sebi.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are both. They can both exist at the same time.
I interviewed Eddie Griffin,
who I love,
one of the other kings of comedy.
Yeah,
and he actually had a close relationship with Michael Jackson.
Sure,
they were friends, and it actually started from comedy.
Sure,
he was at Neverland Ranch.
Sure,
and you know, he was making these Michael Jackson being on crack jokes.
Yeah.
And Michael actually called him over and said, "Man, I love your jokes."
Yep.
You know, he went over to Mike. You know, he was in Miami. Michael invited him over to his hotel.
So Michael's sitting on the bed. He's like, "You want something to drink?" I said, "Yeah, I'll take some champagne." You know, Coke. Like I just have some water. He's nervous, can't even talk right. So anyway, we got to bouncing ideas and shit. And my brother runs out the room. He like, "Nigga, I can't believe it. Y'all motherfuckers is finished each other's sentences and shit." So Michael's like, "Sit on the bed." I'm like, "Nigga, that's how you got in trouble. Sit on the bed."
Oh, so you're making pedophile jokes.
Like a motherfucker.
He's making pedophile jokes
Right.
around Michael, and that's how they became close.
But Eddie is a 40-year-old man when he was making a pedophile joke about it. If you have a grown dude sitting on your bed, it's not quite the same thing.
He even went to Michael Jackson's trial with him. They went in Eddie's limo
Right.
and everything
I
else
mean,
like
yeah.
that. Did you know Michael Jackson at all?
I met Michael Jackson.
Okay. What were your impressions of him? When you
I
met
think I don't think you can throw somebody away because they do something you don't like. When I was growing up and there was mold on the bread, you cut that part off and you ate the rest.
him? Oh, really?
So I think it's not Michael Jackson. I think R. Kelly and Michael Jackson are not really too much different. They had a lot more hits. If you're going to be mad at R. Kelly, you can be mad at Michael Jackson too. Both talented singers, but shitty babysitters.
Yeah.
And I think, like I thought before, Michael Jackson is historical. Bill Cosby are historical. People like want you to throw the whole idea of who they're, like O.J. Simpson, he's a murderer and one of the greatest athletes to ever play in the NFL. So I don't have to, like people go, how can you listen to R. Kelly songs and Michael Jackson songs after all the things, horrible things they've done? The same way I can sing the national anthem. Like I'll cancel Michael Jackson when you cancel Andrew Jackson. You don't have a problem putting a horrible motherfucker on the $2 bill.
$20 bill, yeah.
Yeah, $20 bill. Yeah, so it's not that. So I don't have these, but I think it's ridiculous that because I like what somebody did, I'm unable to see what they done.
I mean, did you see Leaving Neverland?
I did.
Did you think that those two young men were telling the truth, or do you think that there was a money grab once
Well,
again?
here's the thing. I watched, in a month, I watched Surviving R. Kelly. I watched Leaving Neverland. And I watched Abducted in Plain Sight.
Okay.
All about pedophiles. So apparently there was a time when fucking a real adult girl was not the thing. I'm so throwback that I like fucking grown women. But
Me too.
I think the consistent thing between all of them is that they were children and adults who were willing to be taken advantage of or suspend belief. Like, okay, so why did the woman in Abducted in Plain Sight, why did her parents, he fucked the whole family, and they all said he didn't do it. They all said at one time he didn't do it. R. Kelly had victims that all said he didn't do it, right? Michael Jackson had victims that all said he didn't do it, and then some of those same people later on said they did do it. That's a common theme through those things, right?
Yep.
And all the parents sacrificed those children up to people that they knew were doing dirt to their children.
Yep. And now all those people are filing lawsuits.
That's right.
And trying to get $100 million. I mean, I remember when the Oprah, talk happened afterwards, and she asked him, one of the guys, about the money. He goes, "Well, I wasn't even thinking about the money." And I'm like, "You're full of fucking shit.
Right.
You don't sue someone for $100 million and not be thinking about the money.
It's the image.
Cut it out.
Right.
Cut it out.
Right.
Your life ain't going too well, and then a settlement like this is going to change your life.
That doesn't mean he didn't do it.
Doesn't mean he didn't do it.
Listen, we know the Catholic Church had a series of police, a bunch of priests, particularly in North America. I ain't gonna talk about what happened in the world. They molested all those kids, right? They played billions of dollars in settlements out, right? Billions. Those kids, that didn't make them any less abused or any less molested, but at a certain point, there was a financial agreement. Did it mean it didn't happen? It didn't. I'll never be so black that I'll watch a black man do stuff to black children and pretend like I didn't see it. I'll never do that. And I don't care if you like what I think or not. I'll never cede my perspective to you. I think that those men, there's a reason that the black young boys and black young women become black men and black women who are damaged and who will never be the same because nobody ever believes them. Now, I don't believe everything everybody else says, but I can't for the life of me figure out a grown man would want to be around children. I don't give a fuck you had a child. You know, most people didn't have childhoods. You know what they do? They go to prison. They become sociopaths if they go to fucking jail. Nobody says just because you, no grown man should want to be around children if, absent being court ordered. I didn't like being around my kids.
Well, unless they're your own kids. I mean,
that's
at the end
it.
of the day, if they're your own kids, then yeah, you want to be around your own kids.
Well, my wife used to make me babysit my kids, and I resented it.
It's not really babysitting if it's your
It
kids.
is. It kind of was, Vlad. It's crazy to me. Like, why did they wait? That can't be the predicate.
Well, Oprah got a lot of backlash.
Sure.
For doing that.
Sure.
For doing the interview, and I'll be honest, as an interviewer, I felt that she softballed a lot of that interview.
But they'd already been softballed. So
what do you mean?
I mean, I'm just saying they already. Okay. I don't.
I'm not going to touch that.
I don't agree. I think I do not have a problem. I get it. I think they're very talented men, but I think that you can't let the love of their talent. You don't know anything about you. You don't. Here's the thing. The billions of fans they have know nothing about them except their music.
Yeah.
And there's. I hope I hear. I hope I never hear a song so musical, or dope so a verse so dope that I see my political value, my common sense to it. I hope because I actually do stand in a man in the mirror. I actually do. I believe that it is abnormal for a man to want to be around children. And your argument to be, well, what happened? How come he didn't molest all of them? A serial killer don't kill everybody.
Right. And I really don't buy the whole didn't have a childhood situation, because at the end of the day, if Joe did not push those kids into music, they would probably be working at the GM plant.
Right, in Gary, Indiana, right now.
Gary, Indiana, small fucking town with no opportunities. He got to really get to the highest level of human society. I mean, people, we've talked about this before in my interviews. Michael Jackson is the most famous human being on earth since Jesus Christ.
Absolutely.
You cannot name me a person between Jesus and Michael that was more popular, more known.
I can't.
Seriously.
I can't.
Not presidents.
Nope.
Not popes.
Nope.
Nobody, no other entertainers. Michael Jackson was the closest thing to a god on earth in terms of his impact.
Right.
Not to say that he's a deity or he's holy. I'm just saying in terms, people would pass out and cry.
And I still believe he molested those children. I still believe. So, listen, I'm not afraid for you to not believe me.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid for you to get mad. What I refuse to do is to let you tell me what I believe because you believe it.
Right.
Motherfucker, I'm a grown man. I have my perspective just like you do. And I'm not going to argue with you. I'm certainly not going to try to change your mind. And what I'm not going to do, you will see, okay, all those people saying all that shit, would you let your kids lay in bed with a 35-year-old man?
Hell no.
You wouldn't. And I don't give a fuck how many kids he got. You know why? Why wouldn't you do it? Because it's not fucking normal.
It's not normal. You don't leave kids around grown men that are not,
right.
Even in your family, you don't
So
really
why do you
leave kids
suspend
around
that
grown men.
belief because somebody is the greatest entertainer that ever lived?
Yeah.
Miss me with that bullshit. My wife does the same thing. She doesn't believe it. I'm like, hey, I love you, and I'm in love with you, and I think that's wonderful. But I think that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Listen, pedophilia is not something that's new in human society.
Absolutely.
Michael Jackson, Elvis Presley was dating Priscilla when she was 14.
Absolutely.
With her parents' permission.
That's right.
What the fuck is the difference?
Here's the thing that...
He was 24. Come on. And they got married afterwards. Come on. Cut it out.
It says this to me.
Jerry Lee Lewis. It keeps
It's
going
Jerry
on.
Lee Lewis. It's Michael Jackson. It's R. Kelly. Is But you know,
Woody
Elvis
Allen.
Presley is what. Let me ask you something. Here's
I
the
think
thing.
Woody Allen, honestly, I'm going to say this right now. Woody Allen is the worst out of the fucking bunch. 'Cause that was his adopted fucking daughter. How do you raise a child and end up fucking the child afterwards? Like, what the fuck kind of twisted fuck are you?
You know,
and people continue to work with them.
You know why? Because we suspend what we believe about them based on their genius. If you want, like now we don't even, like, let's just say the deviants are pretty fucking talented.
Just put that out there.
Their deviants are pretty fucking talented. You ain't never, if Pat Boone did all this shit, everybody would want to hang this motherfucker. Like, you let somebody, a shitty musician, do this shit, don't nobody care. If you, don't nobody give a fucking, you let Kwame have done some shit like that, nobody would have gave a fuck.
Kwame.
If you a dope musician, a dope artist, the only reason we respect you is because we're blinded by how fucking talented you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You get away with that shit. We don't even, and they mostly just very talented musicians and singers. So I'm telling you, if we want to, we don't even have to have a sexual registry. Just follow people to music class. Like, motherfucker, what? You with the oboe. Come here for a minute. It's ridiculous. And it's all because they're talented.
Well, remember, you and I had a conversation, I think it was about Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
About hosting the Oscars.
Sure.
And you said that...
the very essence of humanity is humor. The LGBTQ community moved forward in such what feels like leaps, not because they were activists and ball busters. It's because of Ellen and Glee and Will and Grace. People laughed. They laughed with them and at them. And they moved forward. Shut up and sit down. If you don't like what I say, don't listen to me. But you're not gonna bully me into not saying what I believe. I think that now they've learned. When we talked about Kevin Hart
in that particular situation,
and they were hosting, Kevin Hart apologized to gay people in every medium possible. He apologized on Twitter, on Facebook, in print, on. They're not gonna let that do. They're gonna let that shit go through. He's blowing a dude on Netflix. It's ridiculous.
Is this good enough?
Right? Shit. Finally. It's ridiculous. Stop. What they don't want an apology. They want a time machine. They want it not to have happened.
They don't want an apology. They want a time machine.
It happened.
Well, you said what you said.
Right.
I brought it up in a Nick Cannon interview.
Right.
And he said that.
I'm not gonna say the gay communities are bullies. I'm not gonna say that because there's a lot of pain in that community. And just like there's a lot of pain in the black community, there's a lot of pain in several communities. And it's kind of hard to be a bully when you've been bullied your entire existence. Yeah. It's difficult enough to be a gay person in America or in this world, but then to know that you're gonna be ridiculed by your family.
That's
as
the
children,
dumbest
and you
shit.
had a response to that.
Who kills people who hurt people were hurt, right? Hurt people, right?
Yes.
If you find alcoholics, what do they have? A linear, generally a history connected to alcohol. Abusive people have what? A history of being abused. Abusive men probably saw their mother being abused, and guess what they did? So stop with this bullshit. You can't do something because it's happened to you. It's children who are molested, people who are molested, oftentimes what? Stop, it's dumb. It's a dumb concept. And I think that tragedy doesn't immunize you against comedy. You want to watch black people laugh, watch some tragedy. You want to watch black people laugh, let them get a bill so high they can't afford it. Like they literally can't afford it. That's the funniest shit ever. They'll call other motherfuckers, you see this shit I can't take care of? That's the dumbest shit ever. We my mother and father used to say, I gotta laugh to keep from crying. And now you exempt because you had a hard time? Welcome to the human condition. Like a dude got mad at me because you're against transgenders. That's ridiculous. I respect your right to do whatever. I respect you and your ability to do whatever, and you want to do it. I'm an advocate for it. You don't like that's I'm just lazy. I just like my women with no assembly required. Like, dig it. It's the same reason I don't shop at IKEA. I don't want to, but I'm not gonna be mad at you because that's what you like.
Right.
I'm not gonna get mad at you. I just don't want to go through all that bullshit. Look, if I want a couch, I want that motherfucker put together. I don't want to be going to get Allen wrenches and shit. Just
Well, Morehouse College, which is a historically black
Sure.
university, an all-men's university,
Sure.
just recently announced they're going to be accepting transgender men in 2020.
Sure. It's the way things are. It's bred. It's like you shouldn't deny somebody their right to go to an institution.
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with it. You know, just the question that, I mean, I had a conversation with someone about this. So does this mean that a woman who identifies as a man can attend?
See.
Or does it mean a man who identifies as a woman? Because then you'll have a woman in the midst
I
of...
just don't like all the questions. Like I like the old fashioned, like where I knock you off and I gotta worry if you pregnant for 2. Like I like the fear shit. I like you know, like I don't want to have. I don't have all. I'm not that complicated. I'm basically a lazy dude. I don't want all those things for me. Now, if they're fine for you, I'm not gonna knock you for it. But don't be mad. My problem with this, acceptance doesn't mean that I like it. It doesn't mean that I understand it or want it to be so. It means that I respect your right. Not only do they want people to just respect their right, which would be what any human being wants.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to accept it and be mad if I don't. I don't like it. If I don't like it, why do I have to? Why do I have to like what you like to be to not get canceled? Why do I have to say what you want me to say or believe what you want me to believe? I can believe you have the right to do a thing and not like it.
Yeah, listen, if you want to be transgender, I'm perfectly
That's
fine
it.
with it, man. Live your truth. If you feel that you were born in the wrong body, express yourself how you feel. It's
But
cool.
don't get mad at me for making a fucking joke about it.
Being around transgenders to me is a bit weird. You know, I haven't gotten used to it. It's a little uncomfortable for me, but I respect your right to do it. I don't have to be in love with it though.
But here's what happened. Billie Jean King, one of the greatest ambassadors for LGBTQ rights ever, said that she thought that allowing transgender athletes to compete against female athletes was cheating. And it fucking is. It is. And she got knocked for that. Now, she was out when it was her,
Martina
Billie Jean
Navratilova.
King, it was her, Martina Navratilova,
Yeah.
Billie Jean King, and Alice from the Brady Bunch. That's all we had. That's all they had.
Alice was gay?
Well, I'm just saying.
Okay.
Now she says, I think Martina Navratilova, she said, I think it's cheating. It is. If I allow you to take a substance that gives you first off, if you're a man, your bone density, your muscle, you can't change that.
Yeah.
And if you stop taking whatever it was you're taking, then you revert back.
Well, yeah. I mean, there was in the UFC, there's an argument about allowing transgenders to basically compete in the women's category.
Then when
you have a basically man beating up on women.
That's right, and you ain't gonna beat my wife up and say like, if a woman becomes a man, a woman becomes a man and competes against him, she is at a disadvantage physically.
Right. You don't see it that way.
You don't.
You don't see
That's right.
women who are transgender to men trying to compete in male sports.
That's right.
You just don't see it.
Because it is a decided disadvantage.
It's essentially
but men
impossible.
who are transitioning to women, they get advantage. And I think the minute you transition to a woman, you should have to go through the same shit they do. Like you should get paid less than 75 cents to $1. You should have stretch marks and hot flashes. And you should be people wouldn't respect like the way they treat women. Here's the funny thing: if you take a substance, and I take a substance, right? If I'm transitioning from a man to a woman, I take a substance. You could say I'm transitioning. If another athlete takes it, it's banned, right? So I'm trying to transition to a woman. Hell, I want to transition to a star linebacker, but I'm fine. I just think as some things, like as a black man, I understand it because they didn't believe we belonged. And Jackie Robinson's birthday is today, 100th birthday is today. Jackie Robinson, before they let him in and play baseball, what did he have to compete at? The Negro League.
Negro League, yeah.
You could have your own league till people accept you. We did it. They have Special Olympics. They do it. What makes you think that you get to jump the line? just cause.
Right. You don't see.
They got a WNBA right now, don't they?
That's an interesting. Imagine someone who was completely normal start to campaign about playing in the Special Olympics.
Sure. It's
It's like, kind of the same thing.
Like, I want to play the
and
Special
they go
Olympics.
and they win all the medals.
Right. And beat the shit out of them kids in a wheelchair. You fucking bully. What they want is the foam on both beers. They want to be treated. If you want to be treated like a woman, you see the shit that women go through?
Yeah.
All right, the minute your ass become a woman, get 78 cents to a less, 78 cents, be treated like a second-class citizen.
Yeah.
It ain't just ball gowns and dope shit. It's some horrible shit. And I think, as a black person, I don't want to discriminate against anybody, but you didn't let me in the Army, you didn't let me in sports, you didn't let me in bathrooms. What, did I go, I'm going to stop living, or did I make my own bathrooms, my own sports? Do that too for a while, until they accepted us, right?
Yep.
So why do you get to skip the line?
Yeah, pretty much.
You want to go to the bathroom you want to go to, right? I get it. I wanted to just be able to go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm. As opposed to a colored bathroom.
That's it.
Yeah.
I'm not advocating discrimination in any form, but I'm also not advocating that you get an advantage. If you take a substance and you're already bigger, stronger, faster than men, and you want to compete against women, there's something I think inherently unfair about that.
I agree.
If that's the case, you're absolutely apt. Why don't they let full-bodied athletes who didn't qualify for regular Olympics compete against it in the Special Olympics?
Yep.
Say I'm dyslexic, now I'm gonna beat the shit out of this kid in the wheelchair.
Right, and outrun him too.
right.
So recently, I interviewed Michael Franzese.
Uh-huh.
He was part of the Colombo crime family.
Sure.
He was a capo
Right.
who left. He was the highest-ranking member of a major Italian crime family that left and talked about it. In our interview, I didn't know about this before because I just didn't research it. He talked about dealing with Al Sharpton.
Sure.
And talked about how he turned into an FBI informant.
Sure.
But the only one that got in trouble over that was Al Sharpton because he tried to do a drug deal with the agents. And then he became an informant after that, 100%, no matter what he says. He was an informant. He tried to do a drug deal. They got him on tape doing the deal, the whole bit.
Al Sharpton.
Al Sharpton.
Was an informant.
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay. Did he get anyone busted?
That I don't know, but you know, there's a lot of news on this. I mean, Newsday wrote a 3-part series on his being, you know, Al Sharpton and getting himself in trouble. I don't know how he skated that, but that's Al. I mean, he's a good talker. He gets away with stuff.
You know, it's funny because people call me the police.
Right.
But they love Al Sharpton.
Right.
But Al Sharpton was an actual Fed.
Sure.
Like he was actually wearing a wire
right.
and getting people busted.
Let me tell you what happened. So I heard about that when I had just come on the radio.
Okay.
And I started talking about it, and they cut me. I was in Seattle, and they cut me off.
Huh.
They cut me off in the middle of the broadcast. I had no idea what was happening. I don't. If it's true, it's true, and obviously it is.
I mean, he actually admitted to it.
So
he did a press conference.
What's the point of it? Well, we having this argument. If I don't say it enough, it goes away. So I mean, I don't get that's so dumb. It's like the boogeyman's coming. Let's put the cover over our eyes because everybody knows the boogeyman's chainsaw can't get through these Superman sheets. What the fuck? That's so dumb.
It's just interesting how people spin certain things.
Yeah.
Because I watched a press conference and he was like, "I'm not a rat. I'm a cat. I catch rats." And
all right.
But you you got caught doing a drug deal, and they made you wear a wire to bust these mafia guys to get out of doing time from drug deal. How is this just not plain old snitching?
Right.
This is just plain old classic snitching.
How's it not?
But he's still a respected member of some community, you know. I'm not sure which community exactly it is these days.
Well, I tell you what, every presidential candidate went to see him in New York. Everyone, the road to the White House, they say leads to him. So if you can snitch so good, presidents come see you. More power to you.
Yeah. Do you know him at all?
Of course.
Yeah. What's your relationship like with him?
We had a bit of a dust up about the Rutgers joke that I told. But after that,
what was the record show?
Yeah, when Don Iman said the thing about the
nappy-headed hoes. Yeah.
And I went on Jay Leno and I said they were not hoes, but they was nappy-headed, and the whole world went insane. And he was like, "You should apologize." We had this big thing, and so it was contentious at first, but ultimately, I think that he became a different person. He morphed and evolved into a different person because Barack Obama becoming the president, and I think he did it deftly, and I think he did it. He evolved, but I think you can't deny that whatever happened earlier did happen. I don't think it doesn't. You're a very young cat and you've evolved since then, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. And to pretend like it didn't happen is crazy to me.
Yeah, and you're right. People do evolve.
Right.
That happened, and it looks like he actually changed the way he did business, and I think he's done a lot of good.
Yeah. Now he's so skinny he can't wear a wire or you'll see it.
He's pretty skinny.
What's that vein under your shirt?
Remember he was taking the selfies?
Right. So now he's so skinny he can't wear a wire.
Well, since last time that we talked, Tekashi 6ix9ine got arrested.
Yeah.
And told on everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody took plea deals.
Yes.
And now it looks like he's going to be getting out later this year.
I think what it was Michael Cohen, the Nigerian brothers that jumped on Jussie Smollett, and Tekashi 6ix9ine. Who was the snitch? Who snitched the best? Like
Who was the biggest snitch out of the?
It was a little run where people were snitching.
Trying to out-snitch each other?
Oh, my God. Them Nigerian dudes told fast. Let me tell you what happened. I was like, wow, Michael Cohen snitched. Michael Cohen snitched so good, I thought he was going to tell us who killed Biggie and Tupac. And Tekashi 6ix9ine, boy, he snitched too, so I don't know who won.
I mean, do you think that someone where hip-hop is these days, you think he can get out and just continue his rap career like nothing ever happened?
I think that it depends on what his base is willing to accept. I think it's primarily up to his fans.
And so, I think his fans don't give a shit.
Yeah. Well, listen, we watched the president grab pussy and he became president. Nobody brings it up. So I think it's up to his fans what they're going to tolerate.
Yeah. And, I looked in the comments because, we had his baby mama on there and she read the whole the guilty plea and everything else like that.
The defendant's obligation under this agreement are as follows: that he shall truthfully and completely disclose all information of the activities of himself and others to the U.S. Attorney's Office, that he will cooperate fully with the New York City Police Department, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, Homeland Security Investigations, and other law enforcement agencies. You want me to keep going?
Yeah, keep going.
That he shall attend all meetings of the office, that he shall provide to the office upon request any document that shall truthfully testify before the grand jury or at any trial, that he shall bring the office's attention all crimes which he has committed, and that he shall commit no further crimes.
Okay, and read the next paragraph, and that'll be it.
If the defendant does this, the office, and this is detailed on pages 4 and 5 of the agreement, agrees not to prosecute the defendant for the crimes set forth in counts 1 through 9 of superseding information, as well as additional crimes that the defendant has told the government about.
And I'm looking at the comments, people, he had no choice. They were going to kill him and all this type of stuff. People will, social media, they will contort their reality, their opinion to fit whatever reality they want to admit.
That's true.
They're comfortable with. If during our day, if someone announced that, Rakim did not write any of his rhymes, that he had co-writers, we would stop putting him in our top 5 lists. We would look at him very different if we found out that Jay-Z had a ghostwriter. But Drake was exposed, and nobody cared. He continued to even get bigger. It almost made him bigger. At the end of the day, the rules, there's no gatekeepers anymore, which I think is a good thing.
I think that ultimately, you have to be able to adjust to the norms of society, or you could rage against the machine and not be heard. So I think it's futile to pretend or to lament the days gone by when they're just that they're finished. So
yeah, you just have to accept.
The now is what it is, whether you like it or not.
Yep, and telling on people is no longer considered taboo.
It is in some places now, no? It is in some places.
I don't know, man, because I just interviewed Bosco, who's from Inglewood, and he said,
see, the thing is, times changed. Like times changed a lot. Like back in the day, like you get called a snitch. Somebody say you snitching, people used to just come up dead. Like a lot of people. It's a lot of people that's dead from getting a snitch jacket put on them, but they didn't even deserve the jacket.
If word hit the street that this guy was snitching and cooperating and there was some paperwork associated with it, there is a reasonable chance you would get killed or hurt very,
now
very
you
badly.
get record deals.
now you get a record deal.
Yeah.
Snitches
don't get stitches, they get residuals.
They get residuals. It's a whole different
snitches
thing.
don't get stitches, they get a deal for the prosecution.
And I remember I interviewed Freeway Ricky Ross, who was one of the biggest drug dealers in America at one point. And he told me something that really kind of stuck with me. He said that, his plug, the guy that was providing all his drugs, was actually cooperating, was an informant, got on the stand and told the jury the things that got Freeway life in prison. What would happen if he walked in the room right now?
Oh, nothing.
Nothing.
I have absolutely nothing against him.
Really?
Nah. Wasn't his fault. See, the way I look at it is, first of all, I made the mistake of getting in the drug business. That was my first mistake.
Mm-hmm.
My next mistake was I went back into the drug business after I said I quit.
Yeah.
So what he did is he only did what people do in the drug business. They tell. They set you up. And for somebody to go into the drug business and not understand that, which I was in the drug business and didn't understand it, but I came to grips with it.
It's something that's just part of that game. So if you're going to
that's
be
just
doing...
like being a hooker, expecting not to have to blow no diet, right? You know what I mean? Like you can't...
or get a disease.
I don't do that anymore. Oh, you don't? like Hoeing come with a Z-Pack. You can't.
Right.
Like you're like... I really... Listen, and it's par for the course. People understand what that is. It's like malpractice insurance. You get what it is.
Right.
And there's a romanticized notion of the way that looks, but I think it's always interesting when you see somebody at the height, and when they're high, they're really high, but when they're low, they're really low. And most people romanticize this part, but not that.
And I remember when I talked to Big U, and we talked about how in today's day and age, right, if you want to be a gangster, you now have cameras, you have video surveillance, you have cell phone tracking, you have all these things that make these criminal and violent acts much more dangerous in terms of you going to prison.
Right.
You know what he said?
When you mad, you mad.
Yeah.
If you upset and you on your thing and you mad because you going.
Yeah.
Now, it may stop that dude who's not really serious about it, but it's not gonna stop somebody who, if they going, they going. And they really ain't caring in that moment about no cameras, and I've seen it happen.
Yeah, you do. Well, when you get mad and you see somebody and you hire a private lawyer, you care. You do, you care.
No, but like, for example, like, you know, if you talk about this Eric Holder situation, it was very clear that he was going to get caught. And he was just so angry that he just did not care.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a fucking camera. Like, if you look at Nipsey's store, there's a big fucking camera right there, like, over his door. And there's cameras everywhere else. There's a camera at the gas station.
Right.
There's cameras here. There's a bunch of witnesses. and you could tell that he was so angry that he didn't care about none
Everybody
of that
got
shit.
that all shit moment. Look, after all shit, then you try to get out of it. Like, I can't believe I did it. Now I gotta make this bitch take a pregnancy test. It's crazy. I can't believe it. But you still do it. It's the getting out of it part. I really just think that people have access to the kinds of weapons they shouldn't. I just do. I think I'm not opposed to people. Like, I got 7 guns, but I'm not opposed to people having weapons. I think that there should be stipulations. If your ass been to bail floor that many times, you should have a gun. And if you do, we should be able to take it from you. Look at all the people. Like, I just think that these things are simple enough, or not simple, because I don't think there's one simple solution. But it suffices to say that a lot of members of our society shouldn't have. If you get mad and your response is to murder somebody and then shoot them and come back and kick them and shoot them some more, then you clearly shouldn't ever have had a gun in the first place.
Right, but do you think Eric Holder had a legal gun? You think he went to a store and legally bought one?
Listen,
I doubt it.
It'd be interesting to see.
I doubt it.
It'd be interesting to see, but I'll say this. I'll even go one further. If I'm a bartender, there are some states where if I serve you a drink, knowing that you're incapacitated or drunk, I get a piece of that charge. If your ass has a weapon and somebody gets it and uses it, and that weapon wasn't transferred or stolen or sold, you should get a piece of that charge too. I bet you what, you'll watch your weapons. I bet you what.
That's a good point.
If your ass, if that gun come up and used in a crime, and you hadn't reported it stolen or sold, right? So in other words, there should be a way that we keep our eyes on that weapons no matter what until you transfer it out of your responsibility.
Yeah.
If it doesn't do, I guarantee you people start weapons.
Yeah,
Let me borrow this gun. No, nigga.
No. I don't even touch other people's guns.
Right.
Seriously.
Well,
like,
this is weird that you would do that interview right now. Say you don't touch people's guns.
I don't touch people. Yeah, I've been to places where the gun's just out and it's like, check this out. You're not getting my fingerprints on that shit.
I don't understand.
I don't know what bodies are on that shit.
Even if it's a legal gun or not a legal gun. Here's the point.
I do not touch other people's guns. I have guns myself.
Me too. And if
I shoot those.
Right. I shoot the ones that might. If you use a gun, if you buy a gun, if that gun didn't go away, it's tethered to something.
Yeah.
Either you sold it, you reported it stolen.
Yeah.
Right? Or you still have it. Those are only 3. Like, either you sold it, reported it stolen, or you still have it. If it is that gun comes up missing and you haven't done any of those things and it's used in a crime, it's a bank robbery, your ass get a piece of that bank robbery.
I think the problem is, like, for example, just look at this Nipsey situation. The guy that got shot in the spine that was standing next to Nipsey is now back in jail for parole violation, but the girl that drove Eric Holder away from the murder scene hasn't been charged at all.
I think that a lot of people, I don't think it's that hard to believe that somebody could believe that they dropped your ass, that they would just drop you off to see somebody and they didn't know what you were doing. I don't know that I think that that's not really that difficult. A lot of women are put in positions where they're getting used and people are not.
I get that. But the guy who got shot next to him was being charged.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I'm saying.
No, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think that I can believe that she didn't know, and I don't believe he should be charged.
Well, R. Kelly's being charged, but all the parents that took their daughters over to see him.
I disagree.
Everyone knowing R. Kelly's reputation are not being charged. The parents that are leaving their kids with Michael Jackson for a week. Remember that in Leaving Neverland? Yeah. I left my son there for a week while we went to the Grand Canyon. And Michael Jackson bought me a house afterwards. No charges. Nothing.
I agree.
But Michael Jackson's the monster. But everyone who's enabling him is a victim also.
Yeah, I agree. That. I think that those children, those parents are responsible for delivering their children to monsters, and they should be charged with neglect.
That's what it is. That's what it is. Well, listen, DL Hughley, always a pleasure.
Likewise, man.
Rest in peace, Nipsey Hussle.
For sure.
And in every tragedy, we mourn the people who we lose, but as important as it is with the mourning is to look at where that person may have made some mistakes and learn from those mistakes. You know, nobody is 100% right or 100% wrong. Everybody makes mistakes. And for the people who are still left on this earth, you have to look at those mistakes and internalize them and learn from them.
And understand what they mean.
And understand what they mean.
And I think one of the, I just don't think, regardless of the good you want to do and the things you have in your heart, you can't be that accessible.
Yeah.
I just don't. I think that this notion that you have to be in a situation to be of it and to have your, it wasn't all people from the 60s that were lining those streets. Mm-hmm. It wasn't all people from his neighborhood. It was people from all walks of life. And so you have to understand, if you want, to stay where you are, stay where you are.
Yeah.
If you want to grow, you got to go.
Yeah. And shout out to Big U, who actually used Nipsey's death as an opportunity to unify the different gangs.
For sure.
You know, you actually see Rolling 60s and H-Rays together for the first time in like 40 years.
Right.
You saw people tying their red and blue bandanas together, you know, something you haven't seen since the riots.
Right.
You know, and hopefully this whole concept of enemies and, you know, hating certain people and so forth, you know, will somehow, you know, it'll never fully go away, but at least a situation like this will make the situation a little bit better.
Well, I think you could tell that to the Indians and the Pakistanis. You could tell that to the Jews and the Palestinians. You could tell that to the Crips and the Bloods. You could tell that to the Republicans and the Democrats. I still think at a certain point we're tribal, and we refuse to allow that somebody who doesn't think like me or have my experiences is just as human as I am.
Yeah. Well, you know, someone told me something interesting that actually affected me because, you know, when I was arguing with people about the Dr. Sebi thing, someone tweeted me and said, the effort you take to argue against conspiracy theories is the same amount of effort that they're using to argue for them. And I said, wow, I never realized that.
Yeah. I'm
going to stop, unless I'm getting paid for it like I'm doing now,
right.
You know, I'm not going to just use my spare time to just argue with people.
You
can't,
can't prove a negative.
You can't prove.
I can argue right now. I can say this building doesn't fall down because I'm in it. You can't prove that ain't happening.
Right. Exactly.
But you would try. You're like, no, it can't because it's no, motherfucker. It's because of me.
Just accept that people are going to have different opinions than you, and man, just keep it rolling, keep it moving.
It's always good to see.
Yes, sir.
I can't wait to see this shit.